Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, ladies and gentlemen, wherever you may be, and welcome to another episode, the very first on TWM's platform of the Can of Corn podcast. Of course, I am your host at The Jameus Mooney, joined by my wonderful and lovely, albeit wearing douchebaggy glasses, co-host, Rami J, Mr. Who Else but Rami Hana. Rami, how you doing?
It's time to talk about some baseball off season.
You done?
Yeah, of course. Did I blow your
Anyway,
eardrums?
no. You I wish
Close.
you did, but no. Anyway,
uh,
it's been a loaded off season. We've seen Carlos Correa go to 3 different ball clubs, only to end up twinning with the uniform he wore last year. We've seen Arson Judge go to San Francisco, burning the fan base to shambles, while Aaron Judge went to the New York Yankees. We've seen some very interesting trades, including some names such as William Contreras I didn't expect to move. Both Contreras brothers have moved this offseason to 2 different NL Central ball clubs. It's been a very packed offseason. Tampa Bay spending money, albeit primarily extending guys, such as underrated players such as Yandy Diaz. Sean Murphy's an Atlanta Brave. And there's just been a lot going on. So, before we start, what's been the most interesting movie this offseason to you?
the most interesting one, but I feel like it didn't really come as interesting because, of course, throughout the season, it was just the talk of it, of him not staying with the Dodgers, and that's Trey Turner going to the runner-ups to the World Series, the Philadelphia Phillies. I'm not just because, of course, I would love to keep Trey Turner at shortstop for the Dodgers because now our situation is really iffy as to what we want to do with. Did it lag or something, or is
It
something
lagged
happening?
for me, but continue.
Okay, but yes, the most interesting one possible. Here's my take on that. Yes, the Phillies will play much better this season. Of course, we're going to get into that. I just don't think that they're going to get back to the place that they wanted to be in regards to
I
the
don't
World
either,
Series.
but I think
But
they're a better team, and I think it was evident that they were overmatched in the World Series. I like the dynamic that Trey Turner adds to this offense. Between the pitch
so
clock
good.
and the bigger bases, I think a base runner with the prowess of Trey Turner and the way he reads pitchers and the way he's going to manipulate that pitch clock, in addition to his speed in the bigger bases, he could easily swipe 50 to 60 bags this year. And his power game is going to play much better in Citizens Bank, a fan box, than it will in Dodger Stadium.
Which I did
So I
want to
think
get into a quick question for you. What are your thoughts on the pitch timer being added?
we can go over that before the season. Um,
Okay.
I'm still trying to determine whether or not I like it. I'm going to see how it plays out in spring training before I really make my mind on any of these rule changes.
I respect that.
The most interesting offseason for me is the Toronto Blue Jays. Between them and the Miami Marlins, weirdly enough,
Oh,
for 2 completely different reasons, but we'll get to both. The first team, this episode is primarily going to be doing a season preview for all of the teams in the league. So, our first team up is the New York Yankees. For me, their offseason was a little disappointing. They did the big thing they needed to do, and that was bring back Aaron Judge. Unfortunately, other than the addition of Carlos Rodon, who primarily replaces Jameson Taillon, and I think Carlos Rodon's a significant upgrade to Jameson Taillon. I don't think Taillon's as great as people do, but I do think there's a big question mark with with Carlos Rodon, especially in his injury history. I don't know if I'm gaga over giving him that big of a deal. I think they had to trade either Donaldson or Torres. They did not, and I don't know if I like the lack of experience in the bottom three of Trevino, Cabrera, and Peraza. But Hicks is still on the books. Full season of Bader, if he plays to the extent he did in the playoffs, should be an upgrade, especially to Aaron Hicks, who's now relegated to the bench. But it feels like there's a lot of moving pieces. DJ's making big money to sit on the bench, or not have a select spot because Rizzo's at first. They brought him back. That's a good move. Torres and Donaldson are taking the other two infield spots. And you can't just not play Cabrera at shortstop and get him acclimated to the majors. So DJ's going to be a rover across the infield to give off days. I just don't know. It's a weirdly constructed roster, and I don't know if it's improved from last year any. And I think Toronto definitely improved. I think Tampa's probably going to improve.
I agree with you with the Yankees. Garrett Cole, Nestor Cortez, Carlos Rodon, Luis Severino, those guys, they're good pitchers, really solid pitchers.
That's as good of a 1-4 punch as you're going to find in the majors if Nestor Cortez Jr. continues the season he just had a year ago. Because he
Really
might
solid.
not, but a 2.44 ERA in 158 innings in 2022, a 159 ERA plus, 59% better than league average. I think he was better than Garrett Cole last year. Garrett Cole is just a better innings eater, and that's why and a strikeout pitcher. That's why he needs to be your number one starter. Between that and the contract.
Plus, not to make playoffs seem like they're really powerful towards the regular season. Harrison Bader did have more home runs than Aaron Judge in the postseason. I feel like going into this regular season, he's going to be a really big hitter, of course, for the team. Aaron Judge is going to do what Aaron Judge does best, and that's hit bombs. Anthony Rizzo.
Judge in the postseason, I think that lineup in the postseason was very easy to pitch around. Once you get to good pitchers, it becomes easier to attack because if you pitch around Aaron Judge and your pitcher on the mound is not good, the next man up has a better chance of beating you. In the playoffs, you don't face average pitching. You face really good pitching. You face the best pitching they have to offer. So it becomes easier to single out a guy and pitch around them.
And the king of Riz, Anthony Rizzo, I'm happy to see him back, of course. Giancarlo Stanton is going to hit the bombs he has to. Josh Donaldson's just going to stand there like he always does. And I feel like this team could do what they did this season. They're going to have that strong first half, and then that second half, they're going to be just absolute garbage. And that's not me being disrespectful.
I think the key for that is Giancarlo Stanton. I'm going to tell you why.
Okay, go on.
Giancarlo Stanton was an all-star in the first half. I believe that was his first all-star selection since his MVP year in Florida. If you look at his splits on the 2022 season, he was a worthy all-star. But he hit 211 on the season. In the first half, he hit to an 835 OPS with 24 home runs. Very solid. In the second half, he hit to a 582 OPS with 7 home runs. The season tailed off in a major way the second half of the season this past season for Giancarlo Stanton. They need him to be more consistent. Because if he had played better in that second half, the outcome might be a lot different.
And I can't argue with that. And it showed. It showed in the postseason once they got there, and they got absolutely shredded by the Astros. Yeah.
Yes. You need the offense is built around Aaron Judge. That's just how it is. But your highest paid player is a crucial player in that casting, and Giancarlo Stanton needs to be put his bat where his money is, basically. for them. I like Giancarlo Stanton. I don't think baseball fans really appreciate the tools he brought to the table, but that second half can't happen. I think the bullpen looks average. They brought back Tommy Kahnle this year, who just spent last season with the Dodgers after recovering from Tommy John. He was with the Yankees from. He came back when Robertson came back. I forget which year that was, but he was with them through the 2020 season after that. I believe that was 2017. He came from Chicago. It was a really solid arm for them. Of course, the fourth season of Clay Holmes, All-Star this past year. I project Deivi Garcia to make the bullpen out of the gate. You can't keep him out of the majors much longer. And they already have Cole, Cortez, Rodon, Severino, and Herman in the rotation. I think Herman has a short leash, and they can move Deivi back at any point. Loizaga, Peralta, Trevino, Marinacci, or Abreu. I don't know if I love that bullpen, but it's not horrible. Of course, Chapman, a stalwart since 2016, is not there anymore. So that makes the game plan a little different. But this is a solid team, but I don't see them repeating the division. What are your overall thoughts on the Yankees?
They need to adjust better than they did last year because the thing is they can do great things in the regular season. We can always see them do great things in the regular season. And then when the postseason comes, we already know what's gonna happen. They're going to lose to the Astros. And my thoughts before
Or
Aaron
the
Judge had
Rays. Or the
resigned,
Rays. Don't forget 2020.
of course. And
Mike Bronson didn't hit the home run for nothing.
My initial thoughts with Aaron Judge re-signing, because my hopeful goal for him was for him to go to New York Mets to avoid
Never
the
gonna happen.
Astros in the playoffs. Exactly. Hold on. To avoid the Astros, they would have met, yeah, in the World Series, but it would have been a different story now that you have a powerful roster behind Aaron Judge. Exactly. And but now it's time to see once again, can he do it? Can he be able to make it? It's like, I'm not trying to bring a different sport into this. It's like the 90s, the Chicago Bulls. You're trying to beat Michael Jordan so badly, but instead you get taken out by Hakeem Olajuwon. You get taken out by Charles Barkley. You get taken out by the Houston Rockets, Twin Towers. You just can't stop these guys, and that's how the Astros are. They're just not going to be stopped.
So we're talking about the upcoming 2023 baseball season, and you mentioned Hakeem Olajuwon of the Rockets. All right. So
Yes.
next up on the itinerary is, and there's a lot of food for thought here with the Yankees. Maybe one of us can do an article on it for TWM, but we've spent quite a bit of time, and we have 29 other teams to get through. My most interesting offseason, my most improved team for what the team needed was the Toronto Blue Jays, and I think they're going to run away with the East. They added Chris Bassett. They added a gritty pitcher, one of the best number 3 pitchers in baseball right now, to an already great rotation, especially if Jose Barrios can bounce back, though I'm kind of holding my breath on that. What they needed was upgraded outfield defense and left-handed hitting. They took away Teoscar Hernandez, 2021 All-Star, big power hitter for them. But what they added back and replaced him with is crucial. They added Kevin Kiermaier, left-handed bat, balances the lineup a little bit, but doesn't add much. He might be better with the bigger bases because of the speed he brings to the table, but his contact leaves a lot to be desired.
Excuse
me. But the best defensive outfielder of this generation is Kevin Kiermaier. Hold on, let me go to my article I put on Kevin Kiermaier when the Rays cut him. Because, or hold on, I'm going to take from an article I'm still writing where I covered his defense. The Kevin Kiermaier is a very underrated player in terms of how hard he plays and his defense. I don't like how much he's not on the field, but that's why they got Dalton Varsho, who we'll get to in a second. Kevin Kiermaier, okay? Just to throw the stat out there, posted a gaudy 17.6 defensive WAR during his time at the Rays in only 914 games. For comparison, Andrew Jones, considered by many to be the greatest defender at the position ever, posted an 18.1 D WAR in his first 981 games from 1996 to 2002. Now, there's the issue. AJ25 played in 67 more games across his first 6 seasons than Kiermaier in separate seasons. But from a rate standpoint, Kiermaier beats him in defensive WAR. That's how good Kevin Kiermaier is. He takes different routes to the ball, combine that with his athleticism and his desire to win. It's hard to top that outfielder on defense. Now, they also added Dalton Varsho, a tremendous left-handed hitter from Arizona. Not somebody I expected to be moved because he's still under team control, but he hit to only a 109 OPS plus last year. Not necessarily great, but his swing is tremendous, easy to the baseball, great follow through. He hit 27 home runs last year. He's got nice pop, but his two positions, center field, and he's a tremendous defensive center fielder. Catcher. Tremendous defensive catcher. Those are arguably the two most premium positions on the diamond. And he can play both if you need him to. Left-handed bat balances out the lineup. They added Brandon Belt, first base. He's going to be their DH. Obviously, you're not moving Vladimir Guerrero Jr. Another left-handed bat. Brandon Belt isn't what he used to be, but Brandon Belt's won 3 championships. One thing that's clearly been missing in this Blue Jays lineup, especially in the postseason, experience. And he's won 3 championships. That experience, I think, is an intangible he brings to the table. A full season of Whit Merrifield at second base, one of the better contact hitters in the game. Then you add Alejandro Kirk, all-star catcher in 2022. You had George Springer, one of the best leadoff hitters of the generation. Bo Bichette and Vladimir Guerrero, 2 generational talents. Not even at their prime yet. And Matt Chapman, a tremendous defensive third baseman. I think that's a hard-to-beat lineup. Not to mention, Alek Manoah could win the Cy Young. Kevin Gausman has been tremendous the last 2 or 3 years since going to San Francisco. Yusei Kikuchi, Jose Barrios is a prime bounce-back candidate who still has strikeout stuff. He needs to keep the ball in the ballpark a little bit more. I'm not necessarily fond of their bullpen. I think Eric Swanson, who they traded Teoscar Hernandez for, from Seattle, adds a lot to shore up the bullpen. Jordan Romano as the closer is really solid. But then you get to Adam Simber, Trevor Richards, Zach Pop. A little bit to be desired there. But they have the best catching situation in baseball with Kirk, Varsho, and Jansen. They have a really powerful lineup. They have a more complete lineup. They have some switch hitters in there. They have a lot more left-handed hitting. They have powerful right-handed hitting. They have a focus on contact. They have a focus on speed. I think it's a very dynamic lineup, and everybody brings something else to the table, and I really like what they did.
And you said it best. The Blue Jays are really, really tremendous. I was absolutely bummed out, like when we did the post wild card podcast, and the Blue Jays got destroyed by the Mariners. Even though I'm happy for Seattle, it was an interesting offseason for them, like you said. I like Manoah. I love Gausman. Chris Bassett, I'm excited to see what he does for them. Kikuchi, oh my goodness. I don't want to get too much into the guy, but I'm hoping that this is a turnaround season for him. And
We've been waiting for since he got in the league.
And Jose Barrios, I'm also very excited to see what he is able to put around for the Blue Jays. The lineup for them You, of course, you said it best. Springer, Bichette, Kirk, Guerrero Jr., Chapman, Varsho, Merrifield, Bell, and Kiermaier. That's really solid. That's really good. That could be the lineup. If this is an not an everyday lineup, but a majority of the lineup for every
Yeah,
single game.
you're gonna work Jansen, Espinal, and Biggio into the lineup. It's not going to be every single day, but that's going to be the main lineup, I would presume.
And Dan Jansen did really well for himself. Um, I'm excited to see what Kirk does this year at catcher. Bichette, a lot of people aren't really giving the guy the praise that he deserves. I love what he said prior to the season ending. The hardest
He was
problem
the
that I
best
have
hitter in
is
baseball in September.
exactly. I love what he said. The hardest problem that I have is I want to be a perfectionist so bad at my position and at everything I do. And it's the truth. A lot of us want to be perfectionists with what we want to do. But Bo Bichette, when he grabs that bat and he swings for the fences, he knows what he's doing. He has the speed for it. Guerrero Jr. has gotten so much better since joining the team. He's lost the weight. He's gotten faster. I'm loving it. And I hope that the Blue Jays are able to not even make it to the wild card. Let them make it to the postseason. Let them get to that divisional game and let them actually see where they lie towards this 2023 season. I
And the
hope
tremendous thing about, oh, I'm sorry, continue.
I just hope, just to end it off, that they make the strongest push possible and we can finally see Toronto in the World Series. For the first time since, I don't know, it's been a minute.
93. 93. When they
Since
beat,
1993.
that's the year they beat Philadelphia.
And that brings a big smile on my face because I love seeing Philadelphia fall.
The, should have been the Braves, but that one hit from what's his face, the former Met that keeps getting in jail. Can't think of his name right now. Vinny Dykstra, that guy. The thing about Bo Bichette is, regardless of his big swing and his defenses, he's never hit below 290 in a season. Knack for contact, knack for base hits, and you can do a lot
So
with that,
beautiful.
especially with his power. This power speed combo, but also the contact. He's just so fun to watch. He brings a flair to the game. The third team in the AL East is the Tampa Bay Rays. Now, the Rays spent money this offseason, but the only two additions to the team are reliever Kevin Kelly from not the New Japan announcer. I looked at it with the New Japan announcer. Kevin Kelly, who came from, I believe, Colorado. And the big addition was Zach Eflin, who for some reason got the largest free agent contract ever given out, beating Greg Vaughn's record. But they spent money. I feel like this is a disappointing offseason for the Rays, who needed to get a corner infielder. I was expecting Evan Longoria to come back. He did not, which is okay because I prefer Yandy Diaz at third anyway over first base, who did just get extended. They moved on from guys such as Choi. So that puts Isak Paredes at first base full time. I feel like they needed to upgrade a catcher and they didn't. But they paid Yandy Diaz. They paid Pete Fairbanks. They paid quite a few other talents as well. And I feel like that's something they've not done in a while. So I like that. They brought in Zach Eflin on a huge deal. There's something they really like about his stuff. They expect a turnaround. He kind of turned it around a little bit at the end of last season in Philadelphia's bullpen, but a switch from having to face the Braves every year and leaving the Citizens Bank should automatically see an increase in his numbers. They extended Jeffrey Springs. I think Jeffrey Springs was the most underrated pitcher in baseball last year. People talk about underrated pitchers for the Rays, and they go to Drew Rasmussen, who was also tremendous. But Jeffrey Springs, he had the best changeup in the game last year, arguably. Our next team up is the Tampa Bay Rays. Of course, they didn't have the offseason everybody was expecting them to. They didn't add a corner infielder. Evan Longoria was rumored to come back all offseason. He did not. Granted, I prefer Yandy Diaz, who did get extended at third base rather than first base. They didn't. They moved on from G-Man Choi, which puts Isak Paredes at first base full time. But they didn't add a catcher either. But they did spend money. They added Zach Eflin to the largest contract in franchise history in terms of free agent deals. They extended Jeffrey Springs, Yandy Diaz, and Peter Fairbanks. They're working on more extensions. The rumor right now is they're working on one with Jason Adam. There's a lot to like about this team, though I don't think they did enough to upgrade. It's nice to see that they're spending money and rewarding players. But a full season from Brandon Lau, who, when healthy, is a top 3 second baseman in baseball. His rate stats are comparable to Joe Morgan. Like, he's been that good, but he can't stay on the field. Is something I would like to see. A full season of Jose Siri adds a different dynamic, especially he's another player that will benefit from the pitch clock and the bigger bases. I don't know if I like a full season of Harold Ramirez in the lineup. I don't know if I like a bench with Jonathan Aranda, Taylor Walsh, Christian Betancourt, and Josh Lowe. But I love the pitching. Tyler Glasnow is going to steal the headlines because he's the flashy. He has the hair. He has the charisma. He has the devastating curveball, the filthy slider. But he still walks too many hitters. He still gives up too many home runs. And he still hasn't proven he can stay healthy. I think the person to look at is Jeffrey Springs, who was the most underrated starter in baseball last year. The changeup to right-handed hitters from Jeffrey Springs is one of the nastiest in the sport. He had a sub-3 ERA last year. I believe it was in the 2.4s when he was... he only pitched about 140 innings, so I would like to see that increase. But with the quality of innings he pitched, with a full season, that's Cy Young territory. A 147 ERA plus, better than 47% better than league average. Not to mention another player people are going crazy about is Drew Rasmussen, who was out away from a perfect game last year, a 2.84 ERA, and a similar amount of innings. His strikeout total wasn't high, but his walk rate went down. He kept the ball in the ballpark. If he can continue to outperform his peripherals, that's a great arm for the Rays. Came over in the Willie Adames deal. The main arm, obviously, is Shane McClanahan, who finished 6th in Cy Young voting in his sophomore season. We'll see. Started the All-Star game last year. We'll see how he can follow that up. USF product, Tampa Bay native. That's a really good rotation, even if I'm not fond of Eflin. I don't think he was warranted the deal he got, but obviously they saw something that they can fix like they did in Jeffrey Springs, and they paid money to go get him. So we'll see how that turns out.
How much?
And of course,
how much is a Zach Eflin deal?
Let me look that up real quick. Zach Eflin got $40 million over 3 years. The fact that that's the biggest free agent contract in team history is kind of sad. But I digress. The bullpen looks really good. Pete Fairbanks is one of the filthiest relievers in baseball. Very underrated. Absolute gas out of the bullpen. Yanni Chirinos, in his first full season back from Tommy John, will move to the bullpen for the first time since he came up. Luis Patino, another starting pitcher option, relegated to the bullpen because of the amount of options that they have. Jason Adam, who had a really good postseason last year. He was the one who, in that game against the Guardians, came in with the bases loaded and left without allowing a run to score. I believe, right? I'm
positive you're right, yeah.
Jason Adams struggled as a 4-pitch pitcher, relying on the fastball slider combo before he got to Tampa. But his most frequently used pitch now is his plus changeup, his best pitch. Then he mixes in the fastball, which allows him to disguise the velocity. As the slider has taken over the game the last 15 years, this kind of style of pitching has kind of gone away. but his change of speed isn't taking something off, it's adding on, and his break is disguised as a fastball out of his hand. It's such a simple change, and it made him devastating last year, and we'll see if he can follow it up. Relievers can be volatile, so who knows. Garrett Clevenger, Colin Poche, Sean Armstrong, Kevin Kelly round out the bullpen. A lot of different arm angles, a lot of different action, a lot of pitchers that bring different things to the table. I think the pitching is going to carry this team. I think the offense needs work. I think Randy Arozarena at the top of the lineup is poised for a big year. I think Yandy Diaz is one of the most underrated hitters in baseball. And if Wander and Blau can stay healthy, the 1 through 4 is as good as anybody's in the lineup. But the further down you get, the more disappointing it becomes.
And to ask this question, because I don't really have a lot to say about the Phillies, and in the most respectful way, I'm hoping for Randy, Wander, and Brandon to have a really good season. However, I want to ask you this: how deep do you think they get into the postseason? Do you think they get to the postseason, or do you think it misses this year?
I think with the extended postseason, they definitely get in. I don't think they win the division.
The wild card, yes.
I think they're a wild card team again. I think the East shakes out the same way it did last year, just with Toronto over New York, and all three teams make it.
I respect that.
The Orioles had an interesting offseason. They had an interesting season. The Orioles competed and played meaningful games into September. I don't know who saw that coming because I certainly didn't. Gunnar Henderson, Anthony Santander, Cedric Mullins, Ryan Mountcastle, Kyle Stowers. This is a very young but potent lineup. They added All-Star Adam Frazier from Seattle to it. Of course, Frazier was an All-Star in Pittsburgh a couple years ago. That's about it. Full season of Adley Rutschman should do wonders. They added James McCann, former All-Star catcher from the Mets. Granted, he's far from his All-Star prowess. Other than that, they didn't really add much. They added Kyle Gibson to the rotation. But they added quality players. They didn't add any flashy names, but they added players that are going to provide good veteran presence, continue to teach the young guys, and just add to the ball club. They added quality players. Nomar Mazara, I believe, is on a non-roster invite. I think he makes the club out of spring training as a bench role. That's a good young team. I just don't know if they did enough to take that next step. But I think they're already ahead of schedule anyway.
I'm excited to see what Adley Rutschman does this year because I've heard beautiful things from him throughout the season, and I saw beautiful things from him this season. However, it's the Baltimore Orioles. I don't always have the best of hope for them at all.
We'll see how Baltimore pans out. The bullpen looks interesting. Felix Bautista is the closer. Austin Voth, former National. They did bring in Mikal Givens, who used to play for them previously. They brought in Paul Irvin from the Oakland A's. I think the rotation's better. I think the bullpen's slightly better, but I don't think it's... You need a great bullpen to compete in this day and age, and I don't think it's a great bullpen. There's a lot to like about the lineup. They're going to have a fun season, but they're just going to miss the cut. Especially in that division.
All right. See? Thank you.
And then
that's all I needed to know.
The final team in the American League East is the Boston Red Sox. Chris Sale at the top of the rotation. Great pitcher, one of the best of this generation. He's been way too injury prone, and he's proven he's not a team player while being injury prone. I don't know how much I like that piece at this point. Nick Pivetta, who's very hit or miss, is the number 2 starter. James Paxton, coming off of Tommy John, having not pitched since then, as the number 3 starter. Corey Kluber, 2-time Cy Young winner, one of the best pitchers of this generation. Really solid for the Rays last year, but he's not going to be an ace at this point in his career at this age. And Brian Bello, who's shown a lot of panache at this level. Great stuff, explosive arm. It reminds me a lot of a Cleveland era CC Sabathia, but he needs more experience. I think that rotation is going to falter early.
This lineup that I'm looking at: Kike Hernandez, former Dodger; Alex Verdugo, former Dodger; Justin Turner, former Dodger. Breaks my heart. And Rafael Devers, who signed a 13-year deal. Am I correct or
13
am I
years,
wrong?
yes.
13-year deal.
I think
Crazy.
I think this offense lost a lot. I think Xander Bogaerts was the heart and soul of the team, and they don't have him anymore. Enrique Hernandez at the top of the lineup at second base. Alex Verdugo looking to take that next step. The main piece in the Mookie deal has not panned out so far for them. Then it's Rafael Devers, one of the best young hitters in baseball.
So
Great
good.
piece. Justin Turner, we'll see how he adjusts and acclimates to a new league at this point in his career as a designated hitter.
I
Adam
want to hear your
Duvall.
thoughts on Adam Duvall.
That's a name I'm going to circle because Adam Duvall I think is going to do great things for them. I'm going to read off the message I sent you when I saw that he signed with them. I told you that the more I think about it, the more I kind of like the Adam Duvall signing. They needed a righty power bat since their only power bat endeavors is a lefty, and I think the dimensions are great for Adam Duvall because he hits high bombs to left field, which means his power will get over the monster, while his oppo power, and there's quite a bit of that, is a lot more line drive. So pesky pole territory and right is a huge bonus for him. I think the dimensions fit his power game to a T. I think they need him to have a little bit more contact. At this point in his career, I don't expect that because of what the rest of the lineup lacks. But from a power standpoint, he's a perfect number 5 hitter for that team. Christian Casas at first base. Adalberto Mondesi. There's a player that should benefit from the bigger bases. One of the top base steers in the game. He's only going to get better with the bigger bases. At shortstop, brought him in from Kansas City. He debuted in the World Series, if I remember correctly, against the Mets in 2015. Has not done anything since, so they're looking to tap into potential that's never been tapped into. Reese McGuire is the catcher, and a debuting Masataka Yoshida. I've heard great things about him, and it'll be interesting to see how his bat adjusts to the majors. What are your thoughts on that lineup?
So going back into it, I feel like, and no disrespect, I feel like they're going to have the same season that they did this year, and it's going to be a lot of, in ways, letdowns. Rafael Devers got the pay. He's going to be the captain. He's going to be the guy that they want him to be. However, how will Kike Hernandez do in this situation for another year in Boston? How will Alex Verdugo be able to adapt again? Justin Turner, he has dealt with the injuries. He's dealt with the years in the Dodgers that he did. I loved him for every single year he was there. I'm so happy that he spent the time that he did. It was great. However, at DH, I'm happy playing DH here. I'm hoping he plays DH here. Hoping these projected rosters are true to its form. I'm really hoping that he's able to drop bombs, to do big things. However, I don't think it's going to be a big key factor. And of course, everybody will be able to answer that saying it's not going to be a big key factor for the Boston Red Sox. Masataka Yoshida, I'm going to be watching him a lot this season. I want to see how he does. I want to see how Seiya Suzuki does in the second season. I want to see how a lot of these Japanese players are able to do, because this is exciting. Seeing them be brought into the league, I love it. And seeing how well they do and adapt themselves here in America, I love it. I hope to see him do big things. The bullpen, not to say a lot about it, because I don't really have a lot to say except for Kenley Jensen.
That's a great gift.
It breaks my heart, because he went from my team. then to your team, and then now he's on enemy lines. It's just, I love him still. I'll always love the
Hall
man.
of Fame
It's just,
closer. I believe he's on a 1 year pack, correct?
yes, 1 year pack.
So that's going to be a deadline acquisition for somebody, and it's going to be a big one because at the trade deadline, there's no entity more valuable than a top of the line closer, and that's a Hall of Fame closer. I
I
don't
respect
expect
that.
him to be there the full season, but that's a good get for them. Moving on to the next division, the American League Central. Cleveland Guardians. Top the rotation is Shane Bieber, former AL Triple Crown and Cy Young winner. Tristan McKenzie, Kyle Quantrill, Logan Allen, and Aaron Savali. The lineup is Steven Kwan, Andres Jimenez, Jose Ramirez, most underrated player in baseball, Josh Bell, Ahmed Rosario, Mike Zunino, Josh Naylor, Oscar Gonzalez, Miles Straw. The bench is Tyler Freeman, Will Brennan, Gabriel Arias, and Bo Naylor. And the bullpen is Emmanuel Clase, James Karinchak, Anthony Ghost, Zach Plesac, Enio de los Santos, Sam Hingis, Nick Sandlin, and Trevor Steven. That's an interesting team. That's a gritty team. I really like the top two of Bieber and McKenzie. I don't know how I feel about the rest of the rotation. Should be solid. Quantrill and Allen are solid players. Logan Allen notoriously is the only person in the world who can see John Cena. And of course, Steven Kwan, Andres Jimenez, and Jose Ramirez are one of the best contact 1-3s you'll find. Steven Kwan, most impressive bat-to-ball skills in baseball, but Andres Jimenez all-star for the first time in 2022. But Jose Ramirez is the name that you focus on in that lineup. He had 126 RBIs last year. He's just an outstanding run producer. He had 82 strikeouts last year. He's not going to strike out. He's going to drive in more runs than strikeouts. At one point, heading into September, he had more RBI than strikeouts on the season. He did not, by the end or twice as many RBI than strikeouts on the season. He did not end the season that way. But to get that far with twice as many RBI versus strikeouts in a game where it's very strikeout heavy, he's a throwback hitter, but he has power. That type of power contact dynamic to that level hasn't been seen much. Not to mention he steals 25 bags a year. That should go up with the bigger bases. He's the most dynamic player in baseball. Outstanding defender. Draws a ton of walks. Hits for power. Has one of the best contact eyes in the sport.
He's a human cheat motor.
Insane. He's finished top 3 in MVP voting 3 or 4 times. I think this is the year he finally wins his MVP.
The addition of Josh Bell to the team is exciting as well.
I think Josh Bell adds a lot to the team. I think you noticed when they played the Yankees the lack of power. And Josh Bell adds that as a switch hitter. So he adds power from the left and right side to a lineup that had power from neither other than Jose Ramirez, who is also a switch hitter. So I think that 1-4 is really good.
I'm excited to see Oscar Gonzalez play because I was not familiar with his game, to quote Shaquille O'Neal. And then the postseason happened, and in back-to-back games, he hit walk-offs. The SpongeBob man. It's absolutely insane. Every time I saw him come out, I remember I believe I texted you. I was like, "What is this? Who is this guy? This is not going to go well for him." And then instead, it didn't go well for me because he hit walk-offs. He hit bombs. I was shocked. I was happy for him. I can't wait to see the Guardians play, and that's something I never thought I'd be able to say actually, because you see these certain teams, you don't think they're going to do well regular season. But from the pitching to the hitting, they got it all, and I feel like they could be able to be a big surprise team, and not even a surprise team.
I think that any team with Terry Francona has a fighting chance.
Oh, Terry Francona.
Manager.
Yeah, I was like, that's why I said, I was like, huh.
I like the catching addition of Mike Zunino. Spent the last couple years in Tampa, was hurt for a majority of the season last year, but he was an all-star just a couple years ago. He doesn't hit for contact, but this lineup's full of contact. Adding that kind of power and defense at a premium position is big for this team. I think that's a big upgrade for them. I think the bullpen doesn't. It looks
Manuel
great at the top.
Clase.
I think Clase, who just was the best reliever in the American League last year, is always a great piece to have. I think James Karinchak is a very solid arm, as is Zach Plesac and De Los Santos. There's a lot to like about the team. I think they run away with the Central. Not that they're a world-beating team. I just don't think the rest of the Central is that good. Our next. You want to take the next game?
Well, with the White Sox, I'm excited for the addition of Andrew Benintendi to be able to be on the team. However, I want to ask you your opinions on the starting pitching, and just from Dylan Cease, Lucas Giolito, Lance Lynn, Michael Kopech, and Mike Clevenger. Do you see these guys staying consistent, and do you see them being the best that they could be, or do you see it just really going under the bed and going just fumbles?
I see Dylan Cease going back to average. I'm going to tell you why.
Okay.
His base on ball per 9 last year was 3.8. His strikeout totals were down from what they were in 2020. Yet he went from a 3.91 ERA pitcher to a 2.20 ERA pitcher. And he worked more innings. If his strikeout rates are down and his walk rates are up from the year before, he should not have gotten better. He got a lot better at keeping the ball in the ballpark, but he still led baseball in walks last year. The second time in his career doing it. There's no way he replicates a 180 ERA plus season. He probably should have won the Cy Young. He finished second to Justin Verlander. But I don't think there's any way he replicates this. I think that with Dylan Cease, the moment he starts giving up the home run ball again, he's back to being a 4 ERA pitcher. He's not going to Houdini act his way out of trouble forever. I don't know if I'm crazy about this season or his underlying peripherals, as everybody else seems to be. I think Lucas Giolito is primed for a nice bounce-back season, but I still don't know exactly what to expect. He had a 4.90 ERA this past season. That's a lot closer to his 6.13 ERA 2018 season than it was to his 3.41 2019 season. I just don't know. He's had
Look at the stats.
He had a 2-year stretch where he was really good, and otherwise he's been average at best.
From the look of the stats, Jameus seemed to be the best player. And I could be wrong, but from the looks of it, it looked like he was very much.
Pitching. Lance Finch had a solid season. Mike Clevenger, I don't even know if he's going to pitch now because of the investigation that's ongoing. There's a lot to like with Michael Kopech's stuff, but there's a reason he's a number 4 starter. I would like to see a full season of Luis Robert at center field. I think Tim Anderson's the best hitter in the lineup. I think Tim Anderson adds personality, flair to the team. I think he's the heart of the team. He's a gritty player. He's a flashy player. His defense leaves a lot to be desired, but man, he's a tremendous hitter. He can win a batting title literally in a year, and he's got pop. Andrew Vaughn, I feel like him and Gavin Sheets both have just been waiting for that breakout year and it hasn't come yet. Just Monty Grandal, walk machine, but he needs to figure something out. They can't count on him having such Jekyll and Hyde at the plate every year. Second base, Lori Garcia is not a good option. I don't like the way this team is built.
Huh? The bullpen does have a Dodgers legend in Joe Kelly. With the rest of this bullpen, how well do you see them making any surprises towards you, or do you see that it just is really
Yeah, I
inconsistent?
don't. I don't. There'll be one or
It,
two relievers who are really good that you never expect because that's every team every year. But I don't expect anything major. We've been waiting for Yo Moncada at third base to break out ever since the Chris Sale deal. This team on paper just looks like every single player we've been waiting to break out in the league for the last 5 years that's never broken out.
and it's not. They're going to continue to not break out, and they're going to continue to show what they do, and that's explicit language coming. Yes.
Another underperforming team in 2022 was the Minnesota Twins, who had a very interesting offseason. They brought back Carlos Correa after biding their time, made a giant splash, met with him after he met with two other teams.
I wanted to say that it wasn't really them biting that, just waiting it out. He was gonna go to what was the first team? There's three teams.
Mets.
He was the Giants. They said, "Hey, you're injured. We're scared about it. We can't do it." And then he goes far over to New York, and then they say the same thing. "Hey, we don't really want you." And then he goes back to Minnesota, and now he's there for 6 years.
I think Christian Vasquez is a really good addition at catcher. I think they needed one after last year. Joey Gallo is the name to look at for that team.
Dodgers legend, Texas Rangers legend, New York Yankees legend.
I don't think the shift is going to help Gallo as the shift rule is going to help Gallo as much as others do because you still have to put the ball in play for it to help. But when he does put the ball in play, that does help him a lot. So he'll probably press a lot less, and he might be a really deadly player, similar to what he was in Texas for them. Of course, still a tremendous defensive outfielder. They added another defensive first outfielder in Michael Taylor, and Byron Buxton is a 5-tool player. That's a really good defensive outfield. I have Kepler starting and Taylor on the bench, but Kepler's been in trade rumors the entire offseason, and as of this recording, he's not been dealt. But that's a really good defensive outfield. I really like this team defensively. Jorge Polanco at second base is a much better defender than he is a shortstop. Carlos Correa is a great defensive shortstop. I don't know much about Alex Kirilloff defensively at first base, but this team has a really good defense. I don't like the Pablo Lopez move for either team that made it, but the Twins desperately needed starting pitching, so putting Pablo Lopez behind Sonny Gray at the top of the rotation is a good add for them, even if I don't like what they gave up. They subtracted the reigning American League batting champion to do that. Joe Ryan is poised for a big year. We'll see what Kenta Maeda and Tyler Manley can do. But I don't mind this team. A full season of Jorge Lopez, who they acquired at the deadline last year in the bullpen. Emilio Pagan, probably do a bounce back season, was really good with the Rays in 2019.
If they can stay healthy, I want to ask you this. Do you see them surprising us and getting somewhere big?
They're in that division, they easily could. I don't think they're a wildcard team. I think there's only one team in the playoffs from this division. But it could easily be Minnesota.
Because, no offense, the team that we're going to talk about next, I don't see them doing
the Tigers aren't going to be in the postseason.
Nowhere near it. No offense, I'm not saying we shouldn't talk about them because we got to talk about them. It's just that when I look at them on paper and I look at them on a game, I say the same thing to myself. What am I doing here? Why am I reading? Why am I watching this? I should be doing something better in my time. And that's not a dig towards the players, but it's a dig towards the strikeout machine that they have on there. And I'm not talking a
Right.
pitcher.
You're talking Javier Baez.
Exactly. Oh, God.
I don't think this lineup's good. I think it's a horrible lineup. And that's not me
Mm-mm.
knocking any
It
specific
is.
player. That's just stating the obvious. Jonathan Scope was a very good player at his peak, but he's not that player anymore. And he's projected to hit third in this lineup. Javier Baez at cleanup with the biggest hole in the bat of anybody in the league. Spencer Torkelson has really good tools, but he's still young. Akil Badu did not. Once the league adjusted, he could not adjust after that crazy Rule 5 thing a couple of years ago. Miguel Cabrera at this point in his career is not what he once was, obviously. Austin Meadows could be a good bounce back candidate, but if he is, he's gone at the deadline. We'll see what Riley Green can do. He did not look good in his first few moments of big league action last year. Oof, that rotation. Woof. Eduardo Rodriguez was bad in 2022. I don't anticipate him being that bad next year. But Matt Manning, Michael Lorenzen should probably be their DH because he could probably out hit half the people in that lineup. Matthew Boyd coming back after being in the bullpen for Seattle. Spencer Turnbull. That's not a good rotation. Matt Verling's a nice addition for them. That bullpen with the Gregory Santos being gone or Gregory Soto being gone is not good. I don't think there's a single name on that bullpen that stands out to me. Alex Lang, Bill Brisky, Jason Foley, Jose Cisnero, Will Vest what? Tyler Alexander, Mason Engler, Joey Wentz. That's not a good bullpen. I think they're going to drop from 4 to 5 this year in the division.
And I tried to find good things to say about them. I looked into the stats. I tried my best. And then I saw the most strikeouts with Javi Baez. And I was just like, I can't do this. I need to walk away.
He's not a good player. He was not a good player when they won the World Series a couple years ago. They won in spite of him. His errors in the playoffs almost cost them the even getting there. Not to mention his horrible hitting that postseason. But he had one good season. It was the year Christian Yelich won MVP. And he's been riding off that and his personality ever since. He's a lazy player who's gotten benched for saying he's not going to try, for not making plays. He's gotten benched for not running, for not hustling. He's gotten benched for a lot of things. He makes great plays, but he boots routine plays. He's not a good defender. He has a 103 OPS lifetime, or OPS plus lifetime. 3% better than league average. He's a solid everyday player, but he's not a guy worthy of a big contract because he's got obvious holes in his bat. He swings at things 2 feet in front of the plate. Literally, he has. He doesn't utilize his speed at an adequate manner. He's got power to get him through, but you have to connect to use that power, and he doesn't draw walks. His on-base clip is not good. He has no discipline. He has horrible approach. I don't like that. A team built around that player.
They shouldn't have never built around him. No offense, but it's the truth. And I think that's the most we can really say about Tigers without continuously bashing them in a way.
And so our next team has been active this offseason too. The Royals brought back former Cy Young winner and future Hall of Famer Zach Greinke. They brought in Jordan Lyles, who isn't great, but he will eat more innings than anybody in the league. And a team like the Royals needs an innings eater to get through games when they're not expecting to win. Somebody that will be on the field for you, get you through games and rest your bullpen, and can teach your young guys. Ryan Yarbrough coming in from Tampa, similar to Jordan Lyles, without the innings. The lineup: MJ Melendez, Salvador Perez, Bobby Witt Jr., Vinny Pasquantino, Drew Waters, Edward Olivares, Nicky Lopez, Johan Camargo, another addition. He's on a non-roster invite, but I fully expect him to not only crack the roster, but crack the lineup. I have Edward Olivares in here twice. Okay, we'll figure out who plays that field for them later. But the bullpen was where they made their biggest move, bringing in Aroldis Chapman. That's a great move for them because if he has anything left, you can trade him at the deadline, and he can be a closer. He wants to be a closer again, so that's somebody that can maybe get some saves for them, bring in a nice prospect at the deadline if he bounces back. Not a great team, but with Pasquantino and Waters, I'm excited to see how they continue to develop at the major league level. That should be a fun team, even if they don't necessarily do much. Kyle Isbell is the left fielder.
I love seeing Bobby Witt Jr. play. He's one of my favorites, and he has been
very
for the
fun.
last.
He's going to be this generation's George Brett for the Royals.
Yeah,
But Vinny
and I love the
Pasquantino,
battle.
I really enjoy.
I also love the battle between catchers Salvador Perez and Dodgers legend Will Smith, as to see who is the best catcher in the league. It always makes me happy and always makes me excited to see just what happens. I like this team.
It's not Will Smith. I'll tell you that.
We're not going to argue about this now. We're going to argue about this later.
People. Will Smith is a very good player. There's a reason he's not been an all-star yet. Because he's never been the best catcher in his own league for the first half of the season at any point in his career, much less baseball.
Like I said, not yet. Not going to argue with this yet. We'll win this later. But
I like that both. Scott Barlow, Josh Stelmont, Aroldis Chapman, Amir Garrett. There's a lot of really good stuff in that bullpen.
Dylan Coleman, Richard Lovelady. That's a hilarious last name.
You know whose last name it reminds me of? Richard Linklater, the person who directed Before Sunrise.
You're in your letterbox to review movie things that you bring up, Buster.
Anyway, continue.
But yeah, but like you said, the bullpen's nice. The starting lineup is pretty good to me. The starting pitching, I like Zach Greinke. I don't know what I think about the others.
Brady Singer's a really solid arm.
Ben Lyles, will he shock me this year?
Brady Singer's very under the radar, but he had a 3.23 ERA last year, and his FIP was 3.58. So his peripherals looked really well. In that ballpark, I expect him to take a huge step next year. I don't expect anything from Jordan Lyles. There's a reason he's bounced around the league so much. He can add to a team, but he shouldn't be a number 3 starter. He is.
He adds, and they send him away.
So I don't have much to say about the Royals. I think
Hell no.
At this point in the rebuild, they're right where they need to be. Let's try and speed race through the rest of the AL for this episode. Houston, big offseason. They lost Yulieski Gurriel, but they added former MVP first baseman Jose Abreu. They also brought back Michael Brantley, and they added... Oh, they didn't add anybody else. Why did I think they had somebody else? Oh, well.
Didn't they lose Verlander?
They did. But I don't think they need him. I think with
Yeah, because
Fromber,
Framber
Urquidy,
Pollock.
Javier, Garcia, and McCullers, they have one of the best young rotations in the league. So I think that line. I think this team's pretty much just as good as it
So
was last year.
so good. It scares the hell out of me.
It's essentially the same team. I don't know if there's much to go over here. The addition of
Ah,
Abreu is obviously nice to get a former MVP first baseman. They upgraded there, but it's the
only thing
same
we can
team.
say is to all the people who dislike the Astros, if you're religious, please pray to God that they do not get anywhere near a World Series. But even prayers will not help us because the Astros will just continue to dominate. From pitching, the hitting, to just overall everything. It's disgusting and I love it, but I hate it at the same time.
The team, another team that had a very interesting offseason is the Seattle Mariners. Luis Castillo
Mm-hmm.
extended right before the season ended. They
Super
didn't add
happy.
they didn't add any new starting pitching, but they didn't need to. Robbie Ray won a Cy Young just 2 years ago. Logan Gilbert and George Kirby were two of the best young pitchers in the league last year, and Marco Gonzalez is a solid arm for your number five.
I
Julio
remember
Rodriguez.
when I remember when George Kirby got called up the day of, and I was like, huh. And it was my second year into fantasy baseball, not to bring that in, but I decided to pick him up. And throughout the entire year, every time I saw his stats, I thought, hey, being called up just for the first year, he showed himself, he proved himself, and then them getting to the postseason the way that they did with Ty France and J Rod and the way that they did things, I loved it. But go on, my apologies for interrupting.
Of course, they have Ty France, Big Dumper Cal Raleigh, best nickname in sports.
wait,
Who, the
Big
Big
Dumper.
Dumper.
Okay, go
Eugenio
on.
Suarez, Julio Rodriguez. Eugenio Suarez is a player that should really benefit average-wise from the shift rule change. And, of course, one of the best power hitters in baseball. Most home runs in baseball since the start of the 2018 season. Eugenio Suarez at third base for the Mariners. But it's who they added. They added Colton Wong, a gritty player who adds everything to a team. Upgrade defensively over Adam Frazier. They added AJ Pollock in left field. Should be a very good platoon pairing with Jared Kelenic. And of course, they added Teoscar Hernandez in right field in the Eric Swanson trade. Tremendous bat, all-star just 2 years ago. Power adds a lot to the lineup. Tommy LaStella on the bench. Good veteran presence. That bullpen is what we need to focus on because Diego Castillo throws a 99-mile-per-hour sinker. Paul Sewald going to be their closer. Andres Munoz, though, one of the best sliders, fastball combinations you'll find. That performance he had in New York in that long extra inning game this past year was electric. He reminds me a lot of a young Craig Kimbrell, especially in the way he sets up and the way he delivers.
That's a big hype to be called.
That's a really solid bullpen. I really like what the Mariners did. They didn't make any flashy moves, but they had a lot of really good players to complement the players they already had. What are your thoughts?
This year, last year I really didn't root for them because I just didn't know what to truly expect. But this year, I love the Mariners. I love the pitching. Luis Castillo being brought in last year and extending him was super smart. Robbie Ray, he's done a really good job. Like you said, Logan Gilbert, George Kirby being brought up, I love it. J Rod, I'm excited to see how his second year goes.
J-Rod's just...
This is his second year, correct?
Yes, it's explosive.
Exactly. Mind-blowing. He's so freaking entertaining. Cal Raleigh, Ty France, Teoscar Hernandez. What are your thoughts on J.P. Crawford? I don't think you mentioned him.
J.P. Crawford, I love the way their announcer says his name when he's excited. J.P. Crawford, he's the most average hitter in baseball. And I don't know if he's a great defender, but he's serviceable for where he needs and what the team needs him to be.
Yeah, I am excited to see this how they play out,
I would have liked to see
and
them upgrade at
I know we
shortstop,
shouldn't be
and
making
then
early predictions.
go ahead and make an early
We
prediction.
shouldn't be. My early prediction: these two what do you call it? They will get to the postseason, most likely wild card or not, but they will face the Blue Jays again. I'm calling it now. That rematch is going to be nice, and this time the Blue Jays will walk away with the dub.
Nice. The next team on our list had a really strong offseason, I feel. Shohei Ohtani is their
Don't even.
superstar alongside Mike Trout. But
Mm-hmm.
they added Tyler Anderson. I don't know if
Oh
he's going to
God,
follow up on the season he had, but he was really solid last year.
I
To go
loved
along
it.
with Patrick
Every single
Sandoval,
second of
Fanning,
it.
and Detmers, that's kind of a so-so middle of the pack rotation. But Hunter Renfroe in right field is a great addition for them. Big power, very underrated season for Milwaukee last year. They added Brandon Drury, who can play all over the diamond, adds a lot to the team. They added Giovanni Urshela. They added Jake Lamb. They added Brett Phillips. Brett Phillips isn't going to do much with the bat, but he's a great defender and he's a great clubhouse guy. They added some solid guys.
Solid guys, but my question is, can they stay healthy? That's my question. Can Trout stay healthy throughout the season? I don't think so. Can Hunter Renfroe do what he does best? Perhaps. However, I just don't see these Angels don't see him doing big things this season. Artie's gonna do what he does best, and that's be
If Mike Trout
legendary.
and
That's be
Anthony Rendon
historical.
stay
That's be
healthy,
that guy.
if Mike Trout and Anthony Rendon stay healthy, I could easily see them having a big season. But I'm not holding my breath on that. I still
I,
think their bullpen leaves a lot to be desired, as does their rotation.
I do want to add Taylor Ward is a very underrated player, and I hope to see him do really big things this year
As is
too.
Jared
I
Walsh.
like the way. Respect that. Repeat that.
As is Jared Walsh.
Exactly. Um, and yeah, Otani is just going to have another historical season as he always does. I wonder how he does when we talk about the World Baseball Classic.
What I'm
And
interested in with Shohei Ohtani, if the Angels are out of it, is he traded? He's a free agent at year's end.
well, Arte Moreno said that he's doing his best to keep the. I'm trying to keep Otani. I
But
don't think he wants to.
if he can't keep him, the Nationals had a deal with the Astros a couple years ago, I believe, to get Yordan Alvarez,
Oh,
and the owner said no. And then, like they had it on the 1 yard line, and Mike Rizzo had it sent, and the owner said no. Let's see what the trade offer was. I just pulled it up. The trade offer was, I don't think it was Jordan now that I think about it. Yeah, I would have said no to that deal too. It's not as good in hindsight. Abraham Toro, Randy Cesar, Josh James, and JB Bukauskas, and Kenny Manuel. That's a big package, but it's quantity over quality. But they let him walk. Of course, they won the World Series the next year, so it's not the end of the world. But with a generational player, if you don't re-sign them by that point, they're going to walk. It's like the Braves waiting with Freddie Freeman.
yeah.
So,
And then we all know what's going to happen. We all know what's going
what
to happen once.
what package does Shohei Ohtani get? Because you're going to see huge packages for the top hitter on the market and top pitcher on the market, but he's both.
Exactly. It's it's going to be a
I
lot of
don't even
money.
know where the deal would start.
I already know where he's going to end up anyways. And you already know he's going to end up anyways.
Where's he going to end up?
He's going to end up still in Los Angeles.
Of course.
This time trading in the red for the blue, trading in the red for the blue, going to the Dodgers.
If he
Because
gets traded,
why wouldn't he? The Dodgers have a lot of money. They can get in that billion of money, yeah.
if he gets traded, I think it's San Diego. I think San Diego would be willing to sacrifice their entire farm system
You did it.
or what's
You
left of
did
it
it.
to get Shohei Ohtani at the deadline with this team the way it's set up, and they're gonna go all in on it being their year.
You really made me take off my glasses because of that bull crap you
But
just
they also have one of
spewed.
the worst farm systems in the league, so we'll see
I
if they.
think the Padres are, I think I personally feel, in my opinion, of course, that the Padres are more than good enough. They don't need to add an additional Otani.
But
But
they
knowing
should.
them,
If you're trying to win, why would you not?
I don't want them winning. But that's just me. That's just my personal opinion. But they could do it. They could. But my thing is this: if it's for a trade package, do you think that trade package includes Juan Soto?
No. Why would it?
Because the thing is this: how are you going to be able to pay all of these guys?
You don't.
They already have
You
They
don't.
have 5 guys.
You get Shohei Ohtani knowing you have him for half a season and you're trying to win that year.
Because they have 5 guys with 5+ years on their contracts. You have Fernando
But look,
Tatis with
think of
12
it this
years.
way. Fernando Tatis, horrible contract. We'll get into that later. We should probably save this for the episode where we look at the NL. But
Of course.
Xander Bogaerts, Manny Machado, you have these guys.
And
But you also have Juan
Darvish.
Soto. You have 2 years of Juan Soto. You have 2 years to try and win with Juan Soto with these guys. Why would you not try to do everything
Risk
you
it
can
all?
do within that window? I go for Shohei Ohtani if I'm the Padres at the deadline because you're never going to have a better team than you do now, and you're never going to get a chance to add a better player than Shohei Ohtani. And immediately you're the World Series favorite.
It's give you Darvish that 6-year contract. Not to get into that, but
You're thinking
so
you're thinking too long term. The Dodgers
so
didn't
money
acquire
on
Trey
both.
Turner to extend him long term. They acquired him to win a World Series in that one of the next 2 years. Just like the
We almost
Padres
had
didn't
it.
acquire Juan Soto to extend him long term. They acquired him to win a World Series in the next 3 years. Think about every trade deadline. The biggest player, Max Scherzer. Who was it this past year? Well, the Astros didn't really add anybody this past year. But but all of the players at the deadline, very rarely do they extend with the team that trades for them. You get them knowing their rentals.
Yeah.
And you're winning them with the mindset of winning the World Series. If you have the best team you're ever going to have and you're the Padres right this moment, why would you not go ahead and try and acquire that
I respect it. I totally understand you. It's just, the Dodger blew in me just not wanting this ever to happen because that postseason is going to be rough, and I ain't talking
Somebody's
dogs.
biased.
Of course I'm biased.
Okay,
I
we're
don't want-
spending a lot of time on the Padres, but this isn't even the Padres.
Exactly. Let's head on to the next team, the Rangers.
The most interesting offseason. They finished 4th in the division, and they went out and signed Jacob deGrom, Nathan Eovaldi, Andrew Heaney, 3 of the top pitchers on the market, although I don't think Heaney has a big year. Then they traded for Jake Odorizzi. They went out and completely revamped their rotation depth to go alongside Martin Perez and John Gray. Then they added, that's in addition to spending big last year with Marcus Semien and Corey Seager.
Go.
this team is just so weird. It feels like just a bunch of. It feels like one of those teams where you sim 2 years on MLB The Show, and suddenly none of the players that were on the team before are on the team. And
That's
they just
actually
do
good.
random
A
guys.
good thing to say. But you said they finished 4th this year.
Yes, behind the Athletics. They fit last year. They finished 4th in the division in 2022.
I'm gonna say it. They'll finish 3rd. They'll just be one. They'll just be up by 1. That's it. Because I'm not trying to be rude here, like I always say, but the injuries that plague Texas Rangers isn't
Jacob
really
DeGrom
fun.
and Nathan Eovaldi both have questionable health.
Exactly. Martin Perez, I like the guy. I do.
I
But
don't.
he can't carry it. You know, he can't
I
carry
don't.
it all on his own.
I think Martin Perez has had one good season, and however long he's been in the majors, and it's been a long time. There's a reason he has a 4.5 ERA lifetime in 11 seasons, and he's 1 year removed from a 4 year stretch where he had a 5.15 ERA, and suddenly he breaks out with a 2.89 ERA at 31 years old. I think it was him in a make or break year, knowing, okay, I have one chance for a contract, and he's not going to repeat that because he's not a very good pitcher. I don't think he's put it together. I think he's going to have fumble. But I like the top of the lineup with Adolis, Simeon, Nate Lowe, and Seager. After that, it's Jonah Heim, Josh Young, Bubba Thompson, Brad Miller, and Leody Tavares. That's not good.
Jonah Heim does have has nice power, but I don't think it's going to be a big factor for the team.
I think this team is very
And
scraped together with the intention of competing, and I think it's food gold. Wolf in sheep's clothing. Or
anything
sheep in wolf's
interesting point out?
clothing, I guess, would be the analogy
With the
there.
bullpen, with the bullpen, do you have anything interesting that you see there?
Jose Leclerc, Dane Dunning, Jake Odorizzi, Glenn Otto, Taylor Hearn, Joe Barlow, Jonathan Hernandez, Brett Martin. That's just average. It's not horrible, but it's not good.
It's not.
It's a very weird team.
That's why I say they just get up by 1. They go to 3rd place instead of 4th place. But I'm not gonna promise myself that in a flip coin anything is gonna happen. They could just be 4th place this year again. No?
Well, I think Corey Seager is going to really benefit from the shift rule, by the way. But I'll tell you where they won't finish, Rami. They will not finish 5th. I'm pretty confident in that assumption.
Is it because of the next team?
Because this might be the worst team I've ever seen.
Especially with who their number 1 starting pitcher is. That is just oh no. Oh no.
I'm going to run down this whole roster before we go into anybody. Starting pitcher number 1, Paul Blackburn. Starting pitcher number 2, James Kaprielian. Starting pitcher number 3, Kyle Muller. Starting pitcher number 4, Ken Waldachuk. Starting pitcher number 5, Shintaro Fujinami. Leading off, somebody who should actually benefit really well with ample playing time, Estoy Ruiz at shortstop. Second baseman, Aledmus Diaz. Third baseman, and when their third baseman specifically is hitting 3rd in a lineup, it's a really bad lineup. Jace Peterson. Designated hitter, Jesus Aguilar. Right fielder, Ramon Laureano. First base, Seth Brown. Left field, Connor Capel. Catcher, Shea Langeliers. Center field, Christian Pache. The bench, Manny Pena. Nick Allen, Tony Kemp, Brent Rooker. I almost don't want to read this bullpen.
Go ahead. Be proud.
Domingo Acevedo, AJ Pook, Zach Jackson, Kirby Sneed, Danny Jimenez, Trevor May, Adrian Martinez, Drew Wuchinski. Rami, their highest paid player is Trevor May.
How much is he getting paid?
About $7 million.
And that's the highest paid?
Trevor May is a middle reliever who had an ERA over 5 in 2022. And that's their highest paid player.
Like overall, you're talking, even including hitters?
Overall, even the hitters.
No wonder they're going to be 5th place. Where's the money going to? The casinos?
Their number 3 pitcher is Kyle Muller, who has a lot of tools but hasn't put it together yet. He came over in the 3-team Sean Murphy trade. In 2022, he had an 8 ERA for the Atlanta Braves. That's their number 3 starting pitcher. Their number 4 hitter is Jesus Aguilar. Granted, one time an all-star, but he's batting cleanup in this lineup. And he had a 661 OPS last year, 86 OPS plus, which means he was 14% worse than the league average hitter, and that's their cleanup hitter. Jace Peterson's one of their main hitters this year.
Is he now?
He had his best offensive season in 2022 with a 698 OPS below league average. That's his best season. In the 9 seasons he's been in Major League Baseball.
Makes no sense. But it's
This
the
is
Athletics.
a horrible team.
Of course, it's Oakland.
Shea Langeliers and Christian Pache both have a lot of promise. We'll see if they can take the next step, but there's nothing here. Shintaro Fujinami is interesting because he has stuff, but she was struggling in the Japan League. How is he going to adjust to the majors? I don't think he's going to.
I can't even say anything good about this. I don't want to even be rude by saying anything bad, but I think I've already said enough bad things about him.
I'm calling a spade. This is not a good baseball team.
It's not.
This is a team that shouts, we don't want this city interested in our team so that we can relocate to Las Vegas.
So what happened to the Raiders?
Because they've been one of 2 things is going to happen because they're not going to be in the Coliseum that much longer. The city's either going to bid and win on a new stadium, or they're going to relocate, and MLB wants to relocate somewhere anyway. Why is the city going to build this team a new stadium? They're refusing to put any money into it. Why is the city going to put money into it?
Can't do that.
They're refusing to even field competent players.
Correct me if I'm wrong. Didn't they have Matt Olson?
They did, but they traded him before last season. Matt Olson's a very good player.
Exactly. And then you guys just
They had Matt Olson, Matt Chapman, Sean Murphy, all on one team. Let's look at the 2019 Athletics. That made the playoffs, and then got kicked out of it. No, they were really good under Bob Melvin. Bob Melvin's one of the best managers in the sport. That team had Marcus Semien, Matt Chapman, Chris Davis, probably hit 247 that year, Matt Olson, Ramon Laureano before he got busted for PEDs, so when he was good, Mark Canna. That was a really good team, a really good lineup. Not a single one of those players outside the one who hasn't been good since he got popped for PEDs is still there. and that's
Pathetic.
because nobody wants him.
Mm-hmm. You don't want to risk it again.
Well, he's not been good since coming back. Let me look
Exactly.
up his numbers. Hold on. In 2022, Ramon Laureano had a 287 on base percentage. That used to be his batting average.
And now what is it?
211. His home run, he went from being a 25 home run, 30 home run on a 162 pace power bat in 2019 to hitting 13 home runs in 2022. He's now below average at the plate.
Very low average.
There's a good argument to be made. He was a product of the PEDs. I wouldn't want
So
him.
I feel like if he joins another team, he's probably just going to go back to what he does best. PEDs.
So in the American League, that concludes because we've gone on a little bit.
Yeah.
We'll do the NL next episode. What was your most interesting offseason for the American League?
I'm going to have to go with... Okay, let me think this through because we just talked about a lot of teams.
15 of them.
Blue Jays, Guardians,
Who do you
and
think won the American League?
who do I think wins the American League?
Is representing them in the World Series. Early prediction.
Wow. I'm about to go with them. Toronto Blue Jays. Vladdy will get the ring.
I think that the Blue Jays definitely had the most interesting offseason. I don't know if it's enough to beat the Astros. So, I don't think the Astros need a good offseason.
Is that your pick?
They're going to be my pick. I hate saying that. But
You disgust me.
a lot of fascinating things in the American League, specifically the Rangers.
Mm-hmm.
I'm still scratching my head on their offseason. But thank you for joining us on our very first episode of Can of Corn Podcast to be presented on TWM Plus platform. Rami, where can the good folks find you?
You can find me on Twitter at Who Else But Rami. You can find me on Twitch at Who Else But Rami TV. You can also hear just my voice on the Turning Time podcast. It's amazing. A great guest. We talk about good old pro wrestling, and it's fun.
Who's the host again? That's Brian Niels, right?
Anthony Arvello is the host of it. It includes the real deal Brian Neal, Kaleem Duncan, and myself. I officially actually got the news yesterday that I'm the permanent fourth member of the group. So now I'll be on every single episode.
Battle.
It's a really fun. You should truly listen to it.
I enjoy the three of you I enjoy knowing the three of you of the four that I know, but that sounds like a truly obnoxious panel.
It's fun. I hope for you to be part of it one day. Of course, it's wrestling. We love
Ryan Yoda like you would job to me.
I feel like it'll be good. But yes, you can find me on Twitter. Who Else But Rami. I hope everyone who follows me enjoys my MMA coverage, wrestling coverage, and just this bullshit I spew every single day.
And of course,
where can they find you, Jameus?
You can find me at The Jameus. You can find me talking baseball on TWM Plus and Fansided, where I work for the Rays beat. But TWM, I recently published a piece on Billy Wagner and the Hall of Fame Conundrum. I got a lot of tremendous feedback. So if you want to read that, be sure. We're just starting a baseball section at TWM.news for the first time. So I'm going to publish a lot of things there to get it off the ground, as is Rami. You can find me, of course, I'm launching more shows for TWM. You can find me TNI Network with Ash Nova, our tremendous producer. Shout out to Ash on We Talk Indies. Be
Dope.
sure to buy our merchandise. And find me on Twitter at The Jameus. I tweet a lot of random stuff, music, film, whatever the case may be.
Ash is great because she supports me wearing these glasses.
Have I mentioned at all today how bad I am at Ashley right now?
You
Those
won't
are
be
as
bad too
rose
long.
tinted as her name.
Enjoy the glasses.
Of course, be sure to remind us what your favorite American League offseason was. We'd love to hear it. We'd love to hear your thoughts. Be sure to like, subscribe, try our boneless spaghetti. Tip your waiter. I'm Mayhem. He's chaos for a double act. He's definitely chaos. All that fun stuff. So we thank you for listening and bid you adieu until next time.